The Cardinals and Sonny Gray feel like a match made in heaven. Today, we talk with Josh Jacobs about the newest Cardinal and what else the team can get done to get back to the postseason in 2024. This is Locked On Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily St. Louis Cardinals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Cardinals fans. I'm JD from Locked On Cardinals, and I'm a national radio sports anchor. Born and raised in Lou and a lifetime Cardinals fan, and I'm your host for Locked On Cardinals, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. You can follow me on Twitter X at JD Sports Radio. You can follow the podcast at LO_Cardinals. We want to thank those of you who make Locked On Cardinals your forced listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Also on YouTube, you can see me. You can see Josh and how happy we are today. So come on by YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment. Interact with us. Hit the notification button so you know when new episodes are posted. This is a show serving Cardinal Nation and giving the best fans of baseball all of the info about the birds on the bat. So the Cardinals continue to make moves, and we continue to enjoy talking about them, whether you agree with these moves or you don't. Today, we welcome in our buddy Josh Jacobs from RedbirdRants.com and the Newt News Podcast once again. Josh, welcome. And outside of the baseball world, how are things? And have you eaten all of your leftover Thanksgiving food yet? Is it all gone, or are you still picking at it?
We still got a little bit to pick at. It's nice because we have family close around, so we got to go and be bringers of things and not have to put together the whole Thanksgiving spread. So we didn't get stuck with a ton of leftovers. I think there's a line between like you want leftovers, but then you also, I don't know, I'm not someone who wants to eat the same thing 9 days in a row.
Right.
So it's kind of nice to like have a little bit, but also to be able to start opening up the choices again. So it's been a good weekend.
I moved on from the turkey and the stuffing and all that. I have just desserts, straight desserts, man. My wife's grandmother makes this chocolatey Claire cake, which is phenomenal. And man, I usually got to fight her over the leftovers there. So we got a little bit left. But
there you go.
Moving on. People want to talk about the Cardinals. So do we. The Cardinals wasted little time following this holiday weekend to make headlines by signing free agent pitcher Sonny Gray, a move that both of us pleaded for this offseason. And it's a move that just seemed to make so much sense in so many ways for them. And as we come to find out, it was something that Sonny Gray was also hoping would happen for him and his family.
Yeah, I mean, for the past few months, you've been able to see the links between his home of Nashville, Tennessee, and that being a big draw. So the Atlanta Braves, the Cincinnati Reds were two major players for him. And it came down to St. Louis, they upped their offer. They beat out the Reds at the last minute, but also Sonny Gray wanted to be a Cardinal. And I think beyond even what this means for getting Gray toward the top of the rotation, you can see two straight off seasons. They might not have been the best free agent in the market, but two of the premier free agents, Wilson Contreras and now Sonny Gray, set their sights on St. Louis going into the offseason and made a deal happen. And it's a testament to the Cardinals front office as well that they didn't sit on their hands. They used it as leverage. They went after the guy that wanted to be there, but they also got the deal done. Sonny Gray wasn't going to come here for $19 million a year. You still had to pay him. Same with Wilson Contreras, but the Cardinals are still a destination even after an atrocious season. And then I know we'll get more into Sonny Gray's kind of personality as well, but not only is he a top of the rotation talent, which I continue to think he's vastly underrated by most Cardinal fans. Two, he's the kind of guy you want in the clubhouse. And I think the pairing of those things together after a season like this, you need talent, but you also need a culture change. And Sonny Gray is going to bring both of those things.
Yeah, when they signed Gibson and Lynn and, Mo talked about, he brought up that phrase, they wanted to be here. I chuckled a little bit because of those signings, because after Lynn's season and with all due respect to Gibson and 15 wins is no joke, they were probably very happy that someone reached out to them right away. And so I was like, well, yeah, you want to be here. Who else is looking for you right now? But when you hear that the guy who just finished second in the AL Cy Young Award voting, who played for a playoff team, which I know you watched the playoffs, that was a wild, crazy atmosphere in Minnesota. They finally got a win in the playoffs. And I was like, oh boy, this isn't great if he's trying to go somewhere else, because that was one of those atmospheres where you're just like, gosh, I wish I was there right now. But that he wanted to come to St. Louis. And it reminds you, like you mentioned, that even despite that fugly season that we just saw from the Cardinals, that it's still a desirable destination, a place that is connected to winning, and just a phenomenal baseball town. And, Sonny Gray talked about that, where he was like, talking about bringing my family in. And every time I've been to St. Louis, I just am like, wow, this place is amazing. So high five to all the Cardinals fans who, even though we had a bad season this year, overall been supportive, have been one of those crowds that still it impresses visiting teams when they come to St. Louis. Like, you rarely hear anybody say anything bad about the stadium, the town, and specifically the fans. And it's one of those things that helped win over Sonny Gray.
Yeah, and it's something the Cardinals just have to continue to keep producing over the years, because at the end of the day, they can't control. They're not New York. They're not Los Angeles. They're not Miami. Right. They're not these other Chicago. Like, at the end of the day, if a player wants a large market, St. Louis can't be that, but they can make up for it in so many other ways. And so I don't know. Like, I don't know what Yamamoto's going to end up doing. I don't know what Blake Snell's going to end up doing. But a guy like Sonny Gray, who has a strong family background, is from the area. Like, this is going to be a huge draw to someone like that. And so I think that it's just a testament to Cardinal fans, and to keep rooting on the team, even in the hard seasons. Doesn't mean you shouldn't hold them accountable to things, but the culture that has been created over the decades, which, I mean, the front office plays a role in that, but it's a testament to the history and tradition of Cardinals fans. It makes players want to come and be a part of that. And then you had Adam Wainwright, who is recruiting him a little bit as well. He talked to some other players around the league about their interest in St. Louis. And so it's not even just the fans, it's the alumni of Cardinal Nation that continues to advocate for St. Louis.
The other side of it, other than being a cool place to be, is money. Money's great. And the deal is a sizable one. 3 years, $75 million, a $30 million club option for the fourth year. I believe it was a $5 million buyout. So Sonny got paid too. I know people see and they hear the numbers like, oh my gosh, $25 million per 30 in the fourth year. And they might get a little bit squeamish when they hear those numbers. But let's be honest, this is the price of doing business in the free agent market for starting pitching. And it's the price of business for a guy coming off a Cy Young worthy year. What were your thoughts on the contract? Pleased, underwhelmed, or do you think they kind of nailed it?
I think you nailed it. I mean, I was hoping that you get him at like 23 or 24 year AAV, but for 3 years, I mean, think of these are different calibers of pitchers, but Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander in their late 30s were getting $40 million a year on short-term deals. So when you shorten the length of those deals, these guys, the AAV goes up. But for the Cardinals, I know they got a club option on the back end, and I'll get into that. But to guarantee only 3 years to a pitcher at age 30, going into age 34 season, that's great. You don't want to be locked up 4 to 5 years with a guy like that. But we have seen Sonny Gray's actually gotten better with age. And there's pitchers around the league now. Some of them are falling off because the age curve is real. But you do have the Max Scherzers, the Justin Verlanders of the world, who do continue to get better with age. And so there's a world where the Sonny Gray contract works out amazing, and the Cardinals do want to pick up that club option as revenue continues to go up. Payrolls will continue to go up. So $30 million a year in 4 years from now isn't going to be the same as it is today. Just how if you look back 4 years earlier, $30 million a year was really just to the elite players. And now that's kind of going rate for just below that at this point. And so I love the contract. I love that you do have the flexibility to pick up a fourth-year option on him. When I saw that they had the club option, I was hoping it was going to be like a $15 or $20 million one because he's going to be aging. But it makes sense. Like, Gray doesn't want to lock himself into something like that because he's only going to be 38 that year. Like, which again, that's old, but like in today's game, there are guys who are having a lot of success at that age. So for him, it made a lot of sense to attach an option like that. The Cardinals, it gives them flexibility down the road. But again, I think I'd rather be paying him an extra $1 million or $2 million a year to keep it at 3 years than to elongate it, make it a 4-year guaranteed deal, and it be at $23 million a year. I like the short-term commitment there.
Yeah, I think the Cardinals do too. I think that's one of the problems with the guys that we've talked about before, the Snells, and even before Nola signed and stuff, is that 6 and 7 years, like more times than not, those don't work out so well. You get a couple of good years and then you're stuck with somebody who's deteriorating for the majority of that contract on the back end. And I don't think the Cardinals want to get locked into something like that. So this just made a lot of sense. And I want to get into the press conference yesterday, the things that Sonny Gray said and the vibes you got from him, plus what you think the Cardinals plans will be moving forward. to continue to build this team for 2024. We'll have more with Josh Jacobs coming up next on Locked On Cardinals. Let's talk about FanDuel. Let's talk about how angry I am at the Minnesota Vikings right now. First off, score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. $150, guys. That's $150 if your team wins. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, no better time to get in on the action because you've got NFL, you've got the NHL, the Blues, surprising a lot of people right now. You've got the NBA, college football, college basketball. It seems like everything's going on right now, and you can be a part of it. Wide range of betting options, including your spreads, player props, over-unders, and a whole lot more. The Vikings screwed us. They screwed us. I shouldn't have trusted them. As a Packers fan, I'm an idiot for trusting them last night. My goodness, not only did they not cover, they also lost the friggin' game at home against the Bears, which also knocked me out of my remaining Survivor leagues. I thought this was a layup. So the Vikings are now dead to me. Know that. And we won't talk about those purple turds anymore. Thursday night, let's move on to this week where we have the Seahawks at Dallas. Dallas favored by 9. Don't hate that. It's a lot of points, but it is Dallas at home. Steelers at home against Arizona, favored by 5.5. We won with them this week. Over the Bengals. They were on the road and got that win, so I'm kind of pro-Pitt right now. And then Jacksonville, favored by 7.5 at home against the Bengals. The Bengals appear to be a sinking ship now that they're without Joe Burrow, while the Jags just keep winning. They just keep winning. They're like the sneakiest winning team out there right now, so I got my eye on that one as well. Check it out for yourself, FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Kick off the NFL season with FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Again, thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. We always want your comments, your suggestions, your opinions. Let us know on Twitter X. You can also give us your feedback below us on the comments section on YouTube as well. Once again, we're joined by our buddy Josh Jacobs from RedbirdRants.com and the Newt News Podcast. Curious, Josh, what was the reaction from like Sandy and Andrew over at the podcast when the signing went down? Are they as tickled as you and I are?
Well, I'll give a quick backstory. So we recorded an episode of Trevor Rosenthal on Sunday. So we were going to post that on Monday. We were excited about it. Then I woke up and I looked at my phone and I saw the John Heyman report. And I'm like, no way. That was my first reaction. I was excited. And then my second reaction is Sandy is going to be so pumped. He is the biggest Sonny Gray fan I know. So he didn't wake up till like 4 hours earlier. So Andrew and I are in this texting group chat being like talking about the news. And then just out of nowhere, Sandy, all caps, is like, no way, here's Sonny Gray. So we recorded an emergency pod yesterday and reacted to it. And we're both really excited. Andrew's a little bit less excited, but I think he's still in with us. So overall, I think Cardinals fans should be excited about Gray.
Now, you and I are big on stats. You know, I don't think we're as nerdy as, say, like Dusty Blake or anything like that. And we could gush about, you know, how good Sonny was last season with the Twins. Like, amazing. Obviously, finished second in the Cy Young to Garrett Cole. We can talk about his consistency. We can talk about the stability that he helps bring to the organization as a physical presence on the mound. But I'll be honest. I don't think I had ever seen a Sonny Gray interview until yesterday. And again, not the greatest public speaker. He looked a little bit nervous doing it, but at the same time, I was really impressed with some of the things that he said in this introductory press conference yesterday, talking about the culture. He brought that up multiple times, the competitive spirit that he brings to the mound when he's out there, like how he's like, you're going to see it. If you haven't watched me before, you'll see it when I get out there. He talked about his attitude about wanting to be a Cardinal and how this is something that he thought about last year. Mo brought up that they've been trying to get him since he was coming out of college at Vanderbilt, that they wanted to draft him and they've tried to trade for him and they finally got him. how he and Lance Lynn are going to bring some fire to the rotation, holding people accountable, pushing each other to do better and work harder. Just the personality of Sonny Gray sounds like a perfect fit and kind of a kick in the pants for this organization and to this roster, which I think after we saw what they did last year, they sorely needed. Agree, disagree with that?
Totally agree. I think I use this comparison a little bit loosely, but I think it's a good one. He's going to be more Chris Carpenter than he is going to be Adam Wainwright for the staff, and I think that's exactly what they need. Like Kyle Gibson is going to be that steady, lovable force in the rotation. Again, he's not the caliber of pitcher Adam Wainwright ever was, but he brings that kind of mentality. But Sonny Gray is going to get in there, and he doesn't take crap from anyone. He's a fun guy to be around, but at the same time, he's ultra competitive, and he wants this team to win. And so he's not going to take mediocrity as the standard there. And he was in Oakland, and that team started to overachieve. He was with Cincinnati during some weird years. His one stint in New York went poorly. But overall, and like you just saw with the Twins this last year, he was the deciding pitcher in their first playoff series win in I don't know how long. Like he's the kind of guy who he's going to rub off on the other starters on that staff, the bullpen arms, but especially the young guys. You're going to see Gordon Graceffo this next year. You're going to see more Zach Thompson. You're going to see potentially later in the year, Tim Kentz or Takeo Roby. I don't hold my breath on that. You're going to have young arms begin to come up. And then in the following years, you're going to have those guys as well. And so to have a presence like Sonny Gray on that staff who's going to show them how to win and show them how to carry themselves as a winning culture, how to get through the ebbs and flows of the season, because every team has rough stretches that can derail a season or they have to power through and get back on. He's going to be the kind of guy who can steady that ship alongside Lance Lynn, alongside Kyle Gibson, alongside Miles Michaelis. I just love the personality fit. You saw him holding a baseball the whole time during the press conference. And then like almost every interview he's done after this too, he just like sits around with it. On Willie Network this morning, he was just in his car. He pulled into some random guy's driveway and had his leg up the whole time. Like he just seems like the kind of guy that fans are going to fall in love with. If they haven't already, the first time he takes the mound, they're going to be all in on him.
Yeah, kind of, you know how, I mean, this is a weird comparison, but like in the movie Happy Gilmore, you always carry a puck around with you? Yeah. Yeah. Sonny Gray carries a baseball with him everywhere he goes. I mean, he obviously is a guy who cares about his family, wanted to be close to Nashville, but, you know, he talked glowingly about how the family was really excited to move to St. Louis and how they've enjoyed the town and when they become his visitors and stuff. But, you know, baseball is his life. Like he is a baseball nerd. Like that's all he thinks about. That's all he wants to do. And it's a cool vibe because Nolan Arenado was the same way when he got to St. Louis. Remember we talked about, you know, the attitude that Nolan Arenado brings to the team and to the field. And last year, because of the losing, I feel like maybe he lost a little bit of that where it wasn't so much fun to be at the ballpark. I mean, losing is not a good time, but to have another guy that's a bulldog, kind of like Arenado is when he first got here, and to have a Lance Lynn. And something else that he brought up was that he was comfortable when he heard about the signings because he admitted, he goes, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but we actually hadn't talked to the Cardinals before they had signed Lance Lynn and Kyle Gibson. And I think one of the things that he thought was nice about what the Cardinals were doing is that guys his age are going to be in this rotation. It's not him and a bunch of young guys. You know what I mean? Like he's going to be around guys that are in the same area of life, you know, that he is at this time. And they'll just vibe together and they'll mesh together really, really well where, you know, if you're a veteran guy in your mid-30s and you're surrounded by 22, 23-year-old guys who are going to clubs and they're partying and they don't speak your lingo anymore. It might be an uncomfortable situation where the Cardinals have built a staff right now that is going to help Miles Michaelis. Like he's going to be like, hey, this is great. Like these are all the same kind of age group as me, you know? And I think that's another reason why the Cardinals seem like a nice spot for him.
Yeah, and you even think back to like the Wilson Contreras situation this past year and how in the following weeks it came out that the pitchers kind of came to Ollie and came to the front office and kind of complained about Wilson and blamed it on him. And like, I don't
Yeah.
get that vibe from Sonny Gray,
Hell no.
Gibson. They're not going to sit and be like, it's Wilson Contreras' fault. They're going to look at themselves in the mirror and they're going to hold each other accountable. And so I think you had a Nolan Arenado, a Paul Goldschmidt, Wilson Contreras on the position player side. Obviously, Adam Wainwright is an incredible leader. So on the pitching side, you had him. But at the same time, like, he had a unique relationship with Jack Flaherty where they were really good friends. And I don't know if I think that staff just needed to be different. Like, not let alone just even like the talent upgrades that was needed. You just needed new voices in that room. And so I think they're going to come to camp with a much different pitching staff in not just the talent, but in the personalities. And you're going to have guys who take accountability every single time out. And so I already think the floor for this team has been risen a lot. We talk about that as we're going forward. But then I think the ceiling could be there because you're not going to have this toxic culture building. And anyone who was like close to the team this past year has all kind of talked about there needed to be some shakeups. And so it's hard to know what exactly and who exactly the culprits were. And sometimes it's not even just like a one person issue. Sometimes you just get the wrong mix of people, and they can all be good people, but it just doesn't fit. The puzzle pieces weren't fitting last year. So I think the Cardinals saw that. And so not only have they gone for the right talent into this rotation, they've gone for the right personality fits.
Yeah. And losing doesn't help any of that. Know, you can usually, when you're winning, everybody will figure it out and get along just fine. But when you're losing and it's just not fun to be at the ballpark anymore. I mean, it'll suck the life out of you, especially when everything was kind of over by July for them. It was a long back end of the season where there wasn't really a whole lot to play for anymore. So, but I love the personality. The more I listened to the interview 3 different times because I got me pumped up, man. I was excited about what he's going to bring to this team. And now the Gibson and Lynn signings make more sense to me. And there could be more to come. And that's something that we're going to talk about next because there's a chance, if you've listened to things that have been said, that maybe the team isn't done adding to the rotation. Is there a trade still to be made? Apparently, they're shopping one of their previous starters. So we're going to talk about that next here on Locked On Cardinals. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube, and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Again, we're joined by Josh Jacobs from RedbirdRants.com and the Newt News podcast. We got word. I want to start with this first because we got word after the signing and everybody's high-fiving each other and kissing each other's cheeks and patting each other on the butt. We got word that the Cardinals are open to shopping Steven Matz. In your opinion, good or bad idea? And what do you think this says about what the team might be thinking moving forward?
Yeah, and I think the key word there is open. Like, I think the initial reports that came out made it seem like they're actively moving in that direction, but there hasn't been enough to confirm that yet. I think I love this. I don't think they need to move on from Steven Matz. And frankly, I think he has the potential to be their second best starter on their rotation right now. Like, he was excellent, sub-2 ERA and 7 starts coming back to the rotation in 2024 or 2023. Obviously, the injuries are always a concern. But if you can move off that salary and it opens you the ability for you to go out and get another surefire top of the rotation arm, I think you have to explore it. And early on in the offseason, I remember I wrote a story about Glassdown. I threw out the idea of could Steven Matz be in a deal? But even then I called it crazy because I'm like, that's just not the Cardinal thing to do. They don't like make a unique money moving moves like that where they try to finagle moving off this contract to take on another one. But the fact that they're open, like it seems like they're open to doing that with Steven Matz, Tyler O'Neill, Dylan Carlson, shows that right now this team could be okay. Like, they need to make some bullpen upgrades and they're going to do that. But assuming they do so, this team can go into opening day and they can be in the brace when it comes to the trade deadline, and they can make their moves then. But they see an opportunity right now where they have all the leverage. They're not going to, like last offseason when they talked to the Athletics or the Blue Jays, they wanted the moon for Danny Jansen or Sean Murphy because they knew the Cardinals had nowhere else to turn. Yeah. Now the Cardinals are like, we have 5 arms. So Tampa, we'll make a deal with you, but we're not going to let you fleece us. Chicago, we'll love to make a deal with you, but if the Dodgers didn't give you 3 top prospects, whatever, we're out. Like, they can go into negotiations of a place of leverage. They still have to give up talent, but they don't have to get fleeced in the process. And then if they don't like the deals, then they have all these assets moving around that they can move middle of the season next year to go out and make those moves. So I think they're going to be open and creative. I don't know what I'd put the odds are of them getting another starter right now, but I think it's in their minds. They're not going to commit to it because they don't know if it will happen. But if they see a move that they can make, they've got the depth on the rotation now that they can afford to go make an aggressive move there. At the very least, it seems like they're going to acquire some bullpen arms.
Okay, so bullpen. Who are some names that you think the Cardinals are eyeing up, whether it's via a trade? Because there's been talk that maybe a guy like Tyler O'Neill, now that they don't have to trade for a starter, maybe they can move him for a better upgrade in the bullpen. Who are some names that the Cardinals fans should just, be aware of, keep an eye on, because these are some of the guys that might be shuffled around and could end up in a Cardinal uniform?
Yeah, so one that's been name dropped already is Phil Maton. Some fans may be familiar with him. He's not necessarily the flashiest bullpen arm in the world, but he's a guy that just can be trusted in high leverage situations. As a righty, he's a veteran. He's from near the St. Louis area. He's from Illinois, and so he's a guy that it seems like they've at least explored his market a little bit to see if he could be someone they bring in. A reunion with Jordan Hicks is always in the cards still. I think they still have to free up a little bit more money to make something like that work. So if they were to trade Tyler O'Neill, I think Jordan Hicks becomes a real possibility again. And then on the trade market, it's kind of hard to predict like what relievers are always available, but a team like the Yankees feels like a really great fit where you could probably get one of their up and coming starting pitching prospects that they like long term may profile to be a starter for the Cardinals, but they can come into the bullpen for 2024. Like a Clayton Beater has been consistently linked to them. Baseball America just ranked the Yankee system as having the third best stuff, and so out of guys that just know how to get guys out with the strikeouts, the Yankees have young arms like that. So it could be one of their major league arms, could be a AAA arm from them. Consistently are linked to the Blue Jays. So Dylan Carlson, whether it's an Alek Manoah who could be a swingman or it could be a different bullpen arm. I'd keep an eye on them. And then any other team that's looking for bats like the Marlins or the Guardians. I'll have a story coming out either later today or tomorrow. I can't remember at this point. There's so much flying right now. I'm talking about how the Cardinals are just in a really strong position right now because of how weak this free agent position class is, that there's a lot of their bats. Like if Todd Yemen was on the free agent market right now, he might be the third best player available behind Cody Bellinger and Matt Chapman. Tyler O'Neill, he would be a valuable bat on the market right now. Same with Dylan Carlson. And so as that really shallow pool thins out even more, teams are going to be calling the Cardinals even more, looking for those bats. And I think it puts them in a position to get some really nice relievers or to swing a trade for another starter.
Now, we have heard some rumors about the Cubs and the Reds because now people are all because of the aggressiveness of the Cardinals, teams are now reacting to what they're doing to shore up their own team. So we've heard about the Cubs and the Reds dipping into the trade market for names like Tyler Glasnow from the Rays, Shane Bieber from the Guardians, apparently are the two main targets from both of those teams. Do you think the Cardinals should try to jump in on those kind of deals, or do you think it might be smarter that now that they've got their attention going towards those guys, maybe they should switch it up and shift their attention to guys like Dylan Cease more, or perhaps one of these guys in Seattle? What would you be doing if you're Mo right now?
I mean, at this point, since they've addressed their three starting rotation arms through free agency, like they can still do more work there, but the trade market's the most they can really do at this point. And they can multitask. Like Mo doesn't have to be the one to talk to every team. So I think they've got Gersh, they've got Mo, they've got their front office working all the phones right now, working on all these teams. So I think, frankly, it's yes, they should be on every conversation that's out there right now. Because again, they don't need to overpay anymore. So if the Cubs are going to give up the farm to get Glasnow, then they don't need to do it. Or the Reds the same way. But they shouldn't shy away from it. I just think like you go to Dylan Cease, the Braves, the Orioles, the Cubs, everyone's going to be in on him again. I don't think there's really a starter that teams aren't calling on right now. So I think the Cardinals would just be wise to be in on all of them. And then as they hear the conversations, to figure out which opportunity makes the most sense. Again, they don't have to make one, but at this point, I just think why not continue to be aggressive? And as they figure out the price points on everyone, figure out what makes the most sense for them and go after that high caliber arm.
In your opinion, one final question here. In your opinion, which outfielder gets moved first, Tyler O'Neill or Dylan Carlson?
That's a good
If
question.
They make a deal at all, I would assume that they will.
Yeah.
But which one do you think gets shipped out first?
My money's probably on O'Neill because I just think like Dylan still has a role on this team, even if they don't move him, of like the backup center fielder and can play all over the diamond or all over the outfield. When it comes to O'Neill, I just don't really. I mean, like he still carries value. Like if they had him on the team, it's not a waste of time or money. It's just they have enough options. I think he's the one who's moved. Now they could move Carlson first if the option's there, but I just think I think it's like 85% sure O'Neill's on the move, and it's more 55-60 that Carlson is. So I put my money on O'Neill being the first one moved.
Yeah, I agree with that. It just feels like there's not a place for him anymore. And let's also think about money-wise. If you don't have to pay Tyler O'Neill now, whatever he's going to make in arbitration, that's awesome.
Totally.
You can use that towards the bullpen where you know that Carlson isn't really making all that much money right now. Still young, still under control. So unless somebody comes in and blows you away with a deal to take him from you, you don't have to trade him. So the Cardinals have as much crap as we gave them for the first two signings. They position themselves pretty well to be in a state of power, as you mentioned, instead of being somebody who's chasing trades and chasing guys now. Like they're the ones who can kind of sit back and be like, we're kind of cool. We're kind of cool right now. And that's a good spot to be. It's a comfortable spot to be. So overall right now, if this is the last thing that gets done, what's your grade for the offseason so far for the Cardinals?
I was literally about to ask you that. So on the same wavelength here, I'd say right now it's like a C. Because I think even though I get and I'm liking the philosophy more now of why they went after Lynn and Gibson, I still think I would have preferred to sign one of those guys and to go after another high level or a higher end starter. But if they do that, if they go out and get that second guy via trade and they have those two back end guys, then I think this vaults to like an A. So I think right now they're kind of waffling between a C. I said D when the Sonny Gray thing first came out of like, I think it's a D if this is the end of it. I've upgraded that. I just think he's good. He's really good. And that wasn't anything about him. I think that's an A signing either way, just more of like how this fits into the whole offseason. So maybe if they make like significant bullpen additions, it moves to a B even without another starter, knowing that they can have that flexibility later in the season. Right now, I think it's about average. They did something that we didn't know if they would actually go out and do, and it's get a top end guy, but then they kind of were a little disappointing on the other moves. So I think it averages out to like, okay, they've done what they need to do to get an A or B. You have to go above and beyond the need. You have to go out and make your team better. And it's gotten better, but like raise the ceiling here. Again, I was talking about the floor is raised. They're a team that should be in the playoff hunt. If they go out and get that top starter, a second one, they are a team that can contend, and that's an A.
I agree completely. That's exactly where I'm at as well. And maybe they don't make any huge moves and they save that for later on at the trade deadline in 2024, something that Mo tends to do where he's like, all right, we're here. Let's see how we get to August. And then in that spot, we've saved some room here to make a bigger move to make that push for the playoffs. So Josh, as always, man, I appreciate your insight and thanks for jumping on with us here today. Again, you can go to redbirdrants.com to read all of the stories from the entire staff there, which there's a lot going on right now, so plenty to read up on, and be sure to check out the Newt News podcast as well, which is also available on YouTube. So thank you, Josh, and thank you guys for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen every day. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitter X at @LO_Cardinals and at JD Sports Radio. Obviously, Josh available at Josh Jaco MLB. And subscribe on YouTube. Help our channel and love for the Cardinals grow. Leave your comments down below on your thoughts on the Sonny Gray signing and everything else that's going on with the Cardinals this offseason. You are the best fans in baseball for a reason. You guys got Sonny Gray to come to St. Louis. Good job. We'll see you next time on Locked On Cardinals.